Jam Session is a podcast where two guys who grew up in Dallas-Fort Worth discuss sports, craft beer, life, and their experiences living in one of America's most vibrant cities. If you love sports, you're going to love this show. If you love craft beer or you're curious about it, you'll love this show. Great conversations with good friends is what Jam Session is all about.
Welcome. It's nice to have you here. I hope you enjoy it. I think you will.
You're listening to the Jam Session Podcast.
I was told that I could listen to the radio at a reasonable volume.
With Cowboys insider...
What's your name?
Jean-Jacques Taylor.
That's my name.
Radio personality and craft beer expert, Matt McLaren.
He's a very strange young man.
He's an idiot. Comes from upbringing.
And now, the Jam Session Podcast. It is indeed Jam Session. Subscribe, rate, and review, and hang out with us for a while. Right here on the Jam Session Podcast. The moment we've all been waiting for has arrived. Ladies and gentlemen, the radio, TV, and now podcast star lying in his bed, the sexy Jean-Jacques Taylor.
What up, dog?
I would be the non-sexy one, Matt McLaren. And this is Jam Session, the podcast version 60, asking simply that you prepare to be dazzled.
If not entertained.
And we will explain exactly why I said that about Jacques. But of course, as always, love to tell you about a couple of the people supporting us. So please support them. Blue Star Motor Group, specializing in superior quality, Carfax certified, pre-owned vehicles of all makes and models. We've been telling you about these guys for a long time. A local family-owned business. When you pick up the phone and make the call, we can't emphasize this enough. You are talking to the owner. If you have a question, if you are looking for a vehicle, maybe you went to bluestarmotorgroup.com and you're like, well, I was really looking for something like this. Call Deb. She can find it for you. 817-881-4066. Or go to the website. You can chat with them through the web. You can send them an email, bluestarmotorgroup.com. But this is the place that Jacques and I, if we were in the market for a vehicle, which hopefully I will be soon, I'm telling you right now, I will be going through Blue Star Motor Group.
Nah, they do what I like best, man. They got luxury cars that somebody else is taking a hit, and you get a great deal from them. And I got to tell y'all, that's the way I roll when I go get a car.
It's the way to do it, man. I mean, hands down. So support them as they support us at bluestarmotorgroup.com. Big fans of what we do. And of course, as we tell you guys about them all the time, Beer Geek Shop in downtown Rockwall. They were closed last week because of the ice and whatnot. They're back at it now as the weather is beautiful. So make sure that you put in your orders. You can check them out online at beergeekshop.com, and you can actually peruse their selection as well. I mean, Deidre does a fantastic job of updating their website, actually. So as they get new arrivals in every week, you can see what they have coming in. You can even place an order online to go pick up. Or if you'd like, you can do, Jacques does this all the time when he goes out there, you can just go to the store and tell Deidre, hey, Jacques and Matt are always talking about these style of beers. Here's the flavors that I like. Can you help me? She's like, I got you. And I think that's something really cool, their ability to do that for you.
No, it's fantastic. I told you next time I'm out there, instead of my usual stout request, I'm going to say, hey, give me 2 or 3 Scotch ales that you like, and let me try them out.
Yeah, and she can do that. I mean, that's what is really fun. That's one thing that I love about being in the beer world is when you have that knowledge and you can really help people find a beer or two that they're going to like. And, of course, don't forget about the Jam Session 6-pack. It's a combination, 3 beers that Jacques selected, 3 that I selected, all in one 6-pack. 6 beers for $16.99 out there at Beer Geek Shop in downtown Rockwall. So get out and support them. You guys know we love them. Love them at Beer Geek Shop. Local, family owned. That's how we like to do it. So before we get rolling here, and we'll be having Todd Archer jump on with us. And yes, we are recording this on February 23rd. Many of you will be listening to this, who knows when, maybe the 24th or in the next couple of days. Today is indeed the opening of the tag opportunity, whatever you want to call it. You got a 2-week window to franchise tag players in the NFL. Started today. The deadline is March 9th, and we will have Todd Archer on. We'll talk about all that with him. But Jacques, something odd happened today because this morning you were like, I couldn't connect like this, so I'm lying in bed, sitting here. Just lying in a bed in a hotel doing a podcast.
Well, it's the technological world that we live in today. I think I told y'all the other day that as part of my my other business is JJT Media Group. I got hired to go down to Jackson State and do a big piece on Deion Sanders and the Jackson State Tigers as they get ready for their first real game. They played Edward Waters the other day, which is an NAIA school. That's like, Alabama opening up against a Division II school.
Oh, okay.
So they wiped them. They wiped them up the way they should, 53-0. And so I'm down here working on the story. So I was telling Matt, I took special care to pack all my equipment that I need for the podcast. Microphone, obviously. The lovely Lorraine's computer, because this doesn't work good on a Mac for whatever reason for me.
Yeah.
So, and then all the cords that go to the computers and the mic and stuff. So I was very proud of myself that I didn't forget anything, because I'm prone to forget a cord now. I set it all up on a table about 20 minutes before the show. I go, okay, everything's working. Everything's connected. Everything looks good. I went to go grab some water, something to drink. I came back. I got ready to sit down at the desk. Ain't nothing working, man.
And you're in a hotel in Jackson, Mississippi.
Yeah, and I'm like, how is nothing working? So I did what anybody would do, especially somebody who fixed a couple of different cars this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, you've got the expertise now.
I unplugged everything.
Awesome.
Because the first thing you got to do is check the plug. And I moved it over to a plug I knew worked because my phone was 100% charged when I woke up this morning. And so I put it in this plug, and it worked. And I was like, I guess now I got to lay in the bed and do the podcast because I know this plug works. It's on the nightstand. And matter of fact, I'm going to tweet out a picture of it. And this is my working conditions this morning.
I mean, that's just sometimes the way that you have to do it. But that's one thing about the podcast that's badass is literally the ability to do it from wherever you happen to be, assuming they have quality Wi-Fi. Everything else kind of you can just figure it out, which is nice.
No, I got to tell you, now, you made a great point. That is the best thing about the podcast, just like it's the best thing about the radio show. Wherever you are, you can do it as long as you got a connection.
So as we get rolling here, Jacques set up, we're ready to go. I wake up this morning and, you and I both busy yesterday, and I wake up this morning to this thing on Twitter that the Mavs, the Dallas Mavericks, who, by the way, won. They're now one game under 500. They knocked off Memphis. Fantastic way to go. Kristaps Porzingis didn't play last night. He sat out with a back injury. All kinds of red flags about this guy ever since they traded for him, honestly, with the variety of injuries and all these different things. And then you see that apparently, and this is coming from a reporter named Jake Fisher, who covers the NBA for the Bleacher Report, has a report that he has sources, plural, sources, that the Mavs have quietly gauged the trade market for Kristaps Porzingis, and that they have begun reevaluating if KP can truly support Doncic as the second option on this team. Now, he's got one source who says they've kicked the tires on everybody on their roster that's not named Luka. Donnie, they're always tinkering. He has an assistant general manager, and these are anonymous, of course, but he has a different assistant general manager. They've definitely sniffed around on him. They're taking the temperature because they know at some point it's going to come around.
So what was your initial thought about that? Because my initial thought is, actually, I guess I got a couple of initial thoughts. One, okay, it wouldn't surprise me if they were kicking around Porzingis just because he's been hurt so much. I don't know if I can trust you to be my number 2 guy with Luka. Mm-hmm. And in the NBA, if guys don't think they can win, they bounce. And so we got to know because we don't want Luka bouncing. So that's number one. Number two, and I'm just going to tell you, this is how I roll. And Matt probably knows this already. Jake Fisher. So he got a story that Chris Haynes from Yahoo didn't get. Mark Spears from ESPN didn't get.
Right.
Woj didn't get. Whoever the other guy is at Yahoo, Sharip, I can't remember his name. But none of the 4 of the baddest dudes on the planet when it comes to the NBA got, but he got. Now, that doesn't mean his story is not right. It's just always, I just always give it a side eye when I'm confronted with that. No different than if somebody breaks a kind of a big story in the NFL and it's not, okay, so it ain't Schefter and it ain't Mort,
right,
and it ain't Rappaport. Well, how did you get this and nobody else got it? I'm just curious. I'm not saying it's not right. I'm just always curious. And then, I think the last thing is, when you look at the sources, you go, okay, the comments that he put from his sources don't seem outlandish to me.
I agree. Right. Yeah.
And so that to me, because sometimes if you just have sources, and in this case, normally you don't quote anonymous sources, but in this case he did. The quotes from those people don't seem outlandish. And so I would say this is probably a true story. And maybe it's just not that. Maybe the other guys didn't deem it big enough to write it yet. And he decided it was big enough to write it. So he went out and shot his shot first.
Yeah, I kind of looked at it the same way, and I was right there with you because no offense to this guy, I've never heard of him. And my immediate thing when I saw this was I went and looked at Tim McMahon's Twitter to see what he had been throwing out there. And I found another, and for those of you, like I've been reading a lot of the smokingcuban.com, and it's like a Mavs kind of fan blog page that does quick little articles, and I was curious, and they had a thing on it, and they go, look, first of all, and this is true, the Mavs are notoriously tight-lipped in trade discussions. Nobody had any idea that Seth Curry trade was going to happen until it happened. And, they even point out if it's not being reported by Tim McMahon, Brad Townsend, or Mark Stein, who are very tied in with the Dallas Mavericks, that tells you something. But again, I kind of took it as this dude was not saying he got it from the Mavs. I don't think it came from the Mavs. I think that maybe, who knows, it's an assistant general manager with some random team that was contacted or reached out. And like you said, man, I don't really think that this is that strange. The Mavs are trying to find a way to improve their team. So it wouldn't shock me if they're picking up the phone saying, hey, is this guy available? Is this guy available? And they go, well, yeah, what about KP? Is he available? He could be if this is the right, that type of thing. Versus, hey, we're calling because we'd like to get rid of KP. Are you guys interested?
Yeah, now see, and the reason when you put this in the notes, it didn't shock me because I was literally working at Jackson State all day yesterday, had dinner with one of the coaches, came back to the hotel and collapsed. So I didn't really see anything after about 4 o'clock yesterday. The thing is, man, I read something earlier in the week, or it must have been last week, about the Mavs moving KP for Kevin Love and somebody else. And, they're trying to figure out how to get Kevin Love to the Mavericks because they weren't sure about KP. Or actually, they were adding Kevin Love to KP. So maybe that was a different thing. But this much we know. And I think the story is right when the assistant GM said the Mavs are always tinkering.
Yeah.
I think Donnie Nelson is really good at always exploring every possible scenario. And KP, man, there's a reason why they call him the unicorn, bro. That talent will dazzle you, and that talent will have you committed. But, dude,
yeah,
this is the Sean Lee factor, man. He's always hurt.
He is.
It's nobody's fault. It's nobody's fault. It's just the luck of the draw. Some cats are always hurt. Some cats are never hurt. And the bottom line is, if you're the Dallas Mavericks, and this is a good question, man. The Mavericks have to figure out, can we trust you to be healthy? Because if you're healthy, you can play. That's not the question. The question is never can you play. You're a terrific player. Borderline great when you're healthy. The question is, will you be healthy enough for us to make this championship run? Can we trust you? And, dude, right now, here's the question. Right now, today, whatever today is, Matt.
February 23rd.
What's your trust factor? What's your trust factor with KP to stay healthy?
Low, man.
For a playoff run.
Low, very low.
No, give me a number. What's a number? What's a low number?
I'd say 20%. I have a 2 out of 10 confidence on that.
Damn, is that low?
Why wouldn't it be? All he's shown, he's not healthy right now with the back injury. I have no idea how you trust this guy to stay healthy.
See, and I always think, okay, the back injury is because there's something wrong with your leg or your hip or your something else that led to the back.
It could be. He's been atrocious defensively. And part of that, I think, is because his body. I don't think his body is right. And you read about him and stuff, and I found one article where it's you watch him play defense, he can't even get into a stance. It's like he's invisible on the floor. And then you see the numbers. When KP is on the floor this year, the Mavs' defensive efficiency rating is 2 points worse than the worst team in the NBA. It's god awful. When he's not on the floor, the Mavs have a top 5 defense. Which, you look at the way they played last night against Memphis, held them to 92 points, played really stingy good defense, and won the game by 10, despite the fact that Luka didn't have a great night, because they can play great defense because KP's not out on the floor.
Yeah, but then I wonder if you got enough other scorers. And so I think, I mean, you gave me the 20% trust factor with KP. Mine's a little higher. Maybe mine's, 41%.
Okay.
But, I mean, neither one of those is a positive. And I'm telling you, man, the Mavs have got to answer this question. And see, I don't say, and maybe I want to make sure I'm clear. I wasn't talking about like just this year trust factor. I'm like the trust factor for at any point in the next 3 years, his ability to stay healthy enough to be the number 2 guy that you brought him here to do, to be that, to be the guy.
Right, exactly. That's my main problem with the whole thing is, and I think it's fair. I think after everything that we've seen, when he's healthy and when he has the time, because again, it's not just a matter of, he's healthy, he can play. Okay, is he 100% right? Is his body back in? He's got no rust and he's ready to go. And the problem that we have seen with this is we are getting like these stretches where he looks like the unicorn KP, and then he gets hurt again. Okay, now you got to rehab. Now it takes you however many games it takes you to get back into where you can play without the rust again, where you're actually 100% KP. Oh, sweet, we got 6 games like that. Then you get hurt again.
Well, see, that's what I'm saying when I say that's the stuff that gets on your nerves.
Right.
And that's where the trust factor comes in, because I can't trust you to stay healthy. So we build this whole thing around you and Luka, and this is how we're going to do it. And then you're out. And so you almost got to have the plan B where, okay, when KP gets hurt, this is the plan that we use to compensate for his injury. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. The only problem is you're talking about a unicorn. So you're talking about somebody whose skill set is not easily replaceable because it's so devastatingly good when he's right.
Yeah, and look, reality of it is, they can explore trades, but it would have to be some wild blockbuster. I mean, he's got, after this year, he's only 2 years into his 5-year deal that he signed. He's got 3 more years left at 31.6 per. That's a significant number for, honestly, a guy. I mean, if the Mavs don't trust him, it's not like other teams like, maybe when we get him, he'll stay healthy.
Oh, well, yeah, you're exactly right. And that's what, if the fan base decides that, KP needs to go, let's trade him for 3 number 1s and this guy and that guy, we'll be saying, okay, you realize that the reason why you want to trade him is the same reason why nobody else wants him, right?
Exactly.
And so you're not going to get the blockbuster thing. It's going to end up being a salary dump where you're taking scraps back to make the salaries meet and all this other stuff. So the best case scenario is for him to be healthy enough to make a run. But the reality is, who knows if that can happen? You can't even, and see, the thing is, man, I don't even know that you can manage his games and load management, all this stuff, because, at some point you do have to play. And,
right, yeah.
I mean, they already give him off back-to-backs, and all this other stuff. At some point, you got to play, bro. And, dude, it's, you know what? I'm just going to be honest with you, man. Y'all have heard me talk about this a lot, but I've never given you any real insight into it. It's not that deep, Matt. So, because Matt's like, what the hell is he about to bring up?
I know. I was like, wow, this is awesome.
But I'm going to tell you right now who KP is. Right now who KP is. And as soon as it popped in my head, I understood it fully. KP is my midlife crisis car. Nah, I'm dead serious. I have a, matter of fact, I'll put it up. I have a black Cadillac XLR 2-seater. It is a beautiful machine. I get wood every time I look at it. It's beautiful.
Wow.
It's beautiful. It was my gift to myself for becoming a columnist. Dude, that car is always jacked up. Something is always wrong with it. You drive it.
Yeah.
You drive it, the top's down, you flossing, you're like, I am that 12-letter cuss word. Yeah. And then 3 weeks later, the check engine light comes on. And anytime you take it to the shop, it's $1,500.
Yeah.
Or you're driving it and all of a sudden this thing happens where the electronics go crazy on the dashboard. And you're like, what the hell? And so I can honestly tell you, man, I've had that car now since, damn, man, I may have had that car 10 years now. I think I bought it in 2007. So I've had 12 years.
Wow.
This is all you need to know. I've had that car 12 years. I bought it with 15,000 miles on it. It now has 50,000 miles on it.
That's incredible.
So it's a 2004 Cadillac XLR. It's got 50,000 miles on it. In part because it's always jacked up. And so when I drive it, even when I drive it and enjoy it, like, I don't want to take that thing down to Austin because I can never trust it to act right.
Man. Yeah.
But every time I get ready to get rid of it, because I'm like, I'm sick of this piece of shit. Every time I get rid of it, it'll run great for 6 months. And I'll be like, okay, now I remember why I love you. The wind blowing through my hair.
There you go.
I pull up at the light on the SMU campus. The co-eds are looking at me like, hey, baby, I'm taking. I'm not available. KP is my Cadillac XLR, man. I love it and hate it at the same time. I've been talking about trading that thing in for 3 or 4 years, and every time I get ready to, it gets washed, it gets waxed, it rides great, and I'm like, okay, I love you. I'll take you back. And then as soon as I get comfortable, man, it breaks my heart again.
Yeah, there it is. That's a great analogy. You're exactly right. Right now in his Mavs, really in his NBA career, I mean, who gives a crap when he was with the Knicks, but with the way it has affected the Mavs, you're exactly right. Because we do get those flashes of the unicorn where we're like, oh my God, here it is, finally. And then 3 days later, he's like, oh, he's got to miss a game. He's got a back tightness or he's got his knee is sore, whatever it is, where you're just like, man. And that's why they call him the unicorn. It feels like now, yeah, he can perform like that, but it's so rare when he does and it's consistent that it is like seeing a unicorn.
Yep.
It's unfortunate, but that's the reality of where the Mavs are. The reality of where we are is right here with you guys. And I wanted to throw this out there because we still have some T-shirts remaining. If you are trying to get a Jam Session T-shirt, some of you, and this is what I always think is funny, I've had people that send me an email saying they want a T-shirt, and I send them an invoice and then a reminder, and then it's like maybe it goes to spam or something, and maybe you're wondering, I just magically send it to you. I don't know. But if you would like a T-shirt, we still have some in stock. We have a variety of sizes, so check with me. They're $20 plus shipping and handling. We've got black and we've got red with the Jam Session logo on it. That's a great way to support us. If you guys want to support us, we really appreciate it if you would pick up a T-shirt, and you can send your order to matt@jamsessionpodcast.com. We also are expanding our sponsor list. We should be announcing a couple of new ones coming up here for March. And that helps us tremendously as well to keep this thing going and to grow it. It allows us to be able to go out and do some more things as we add sponsors. If you are interested, if you own a local business like Blue Star Motor Group or Beer Geeks or any of our fantastic sponsors, if you're local and you're looking to expand your footprint in the North Texas area, we can help each other out. So again, I've got information for you. Maybe you have a friend that owns a business. Talk to them. Let us know if there's somebody out there who's interested in jumping on with us. And my email again for all this information, matt@jamsessionpodcast.com. And perhaps we'll be talking about you like we do with HFX Foundation Solutions, full service foundation repair company. And they service all of DFW. Wherever you are in the North Texas area, they can take care of you. Specializing, of course, in slab and also pier and beam foundation repair. Talked about this the other day, but we're about to get into March and April. And as we all know here in the Texas area, that is when we see a lot of random rainstorms that'll pop up, and we get all kinds of weather as we're preparing for spring and whatnot. They also handle drainage and gutter installations, which is very important, helping your foundation. So if you are seeing signs that you may have a foundation problem, I would give them a call. Better safe than sorry, especially with something like that. It's a free inspection. 817-770-0174. A-rated with the Better Business Bureau. Aaron and his team, they will get you taken care of and make sure that your home is fine. So give them a call or check them out online, hfxfoundation.com or 817-770-0174. So let's take a trip around the block because you sent me this note earlier this morning. And I think this is fascinating because this is one of those things that connects Jacques and us, and me, us. I guess it does connect us if we're talking about Scott in such a random ass way. Because it was 10 years ago today, February 23rd, 2011, that you started a show on The Ticket with Scott Harrison called The Soul Patch.
That was a great time, man. I'll tell you how it got started because it's really the essence of what I've done my entire career. Is I was literally reading the Dallas Morning News one Sunday morning, probably about 3 or 4 weeks before this date, and I saw somewhere in Barry Horn's media column or something, I think, that Mark Elfenbein was leaving The Ticket for something.
Yeah, he had gotten a midday show with The Fan with Jane Slater originally, I believe.
Okay, that's what it was.
It was either her or Josh Lewin. I can't remember who he started with first.
Right, but he was leaving that Sunday morning show. And at that point, I was a columnist, and I was trying to be Randy Galloway. In this sense, you get the column, you get the radio show, you can get rich. Without one or the other, you can be perfectly fine. But if you can put the two together, you can get rich. And so I had never done radio before, but I remember this distinctly, man. I read that in the paper on Sunday. When I finished reading the paper, I got online. I looked up Jeff Catlin's phone number on the internet, the ticket number.
Yeah.
And I called Jeff Catlin, the program director at the Ticket, and left him a message. Literally. Jacques Taylor, I see that Elf is leaving. Love to talk to you about an opportunity. That was Sunday morning, bro. And he called me Monday morning and said, let's meet at Starbucks on Oak Lawn. And so we went there, we met, we talked probably for about 30 minutes. He said, I think you'll be good at it. Let's give it a whirl.
Yeah. And
he hooked me up with Scott. I had never met Scott except a couple of times. He had done some high school radio, so I was familiar with him.
Yeah.
I guess I knew him, but I didn't know him. But dude, much like me and you, we hit it off right away. And the show was great, man. We had a good time because it's much like me and you. He was a fan of local teams. I was the Mr. Curmudgeon, never let you feel good about your team. And then we had a lot of stuff in common. And so, we just took off from there. But it was a good time, man.
Yeah, and it's so interesting because I remember that well because I had been working at the Ticket when that happened. Because I started working at the Ticket in like August of 2009. So this would have been February 2011. And I had been doing like some weekend shows and doing some stars and some other stuff, filling in and whatnot. And it was funny because, and this happens. And this probably happened when you and I got a shot on Sundays when the gig over at the 4-letter asshole radio station went away. And what happens is when you're working and you're part-time and you're trying to get a show, then all of a sudden, like people that aren't at the station come in, you're like, what the hell? What's going on? And Sunday morning on the Ticket is a prime spot, believe it or not, on the weekends. Right. that 8 to 11-ish type slot is a really solid slot for, especially if you're up and coming and you're trying to build what you're doing. And it was funny because everybody was kind of like, oh, okay, well, Jean-Jacques Taylor, obviously. I mean, that dude's been around forever. He's a big-time sports writer. Like, I mean, okay, makes sense. And then everybody's like, Scott Harrison, who's that? He hasn't been here. They should have paired Jacques with one of us. And then, I got to know Scott, obviously. And it was funny because you didn't do that very long. What was it, like 6 months?
I did it 6 months. And then I got and then I left the Dallas Morning News to go be a columnist at ESPN. In August. So I started in February. I left in August.
Okay. Yeah.
And one of the reasons I left, or I felt good about leaving, is the people at ESPN had said, hey, we've heard you on the radio on the Ticket. We're not promising you anything, but we'll have some radio opportunities here. And we really think you have a shot, if things go right, 5 or 6 years from now to kind of move into Galloway's slot whenever he leaves. And so I was like, okay, so they're going to give me some radio opportunities. The ticket is part-time anyway.
Yeah.
This will be a little more consistent. Because, again, I didn't care about the money at that point. I just want the reps. And so that was one of the reasons why I left. Because I called Cat back in the middle of negotiations and said, hey, if I decide to stay, can I still come back and do radio if the radio part doesn't work over here? And he's like, yeah. But the radio part worked over there. So finally I said, okay, good. I appreciate it, but I'm going to go.
Yeah, and it was wild because when you left, that gave me the opportunity to move into that Sunday morning slot that you had vacated, and Scott and I started doing a show together that in August of 2011, and it was on that Sunday morning, and we were Sunday Mass is what we called it. Matt and Scott Spectacular is what the MASS stood for, and it was Sunday Mass 8 to 11, and we did that for a year and a half on the ticket. And then February of 2013, almost exactly 8 years ago, we left. We got a full-time shot at one of the highest rated, most prestigious mid-market sports stations in the country called Jocks 94.5 out in Birmingham, Alabama. And Scott and I jumped in his truck and moved out there. And we were there for 3.5 years. And it's wild because you and Scott did a show, and then that led to me and Scott doing a show together for almost exactly 5 years. We did a show together. And, Scott's such a good dude. I always loved him. We were really, really close. And I talk to him still every once in a blue moon now, but he and his wife, Anita, actually just moved from Birmingham, and he is starting his own hospitality business out in, I forget the name of the city, but they just moved to Arizona like 2 weeks ago.
What's the hospitality business?
See, I need to call him and figure out like exactly what that means. I didn't know what that meant when he said had a great opportunity because, he was one of those that had, much like in my radio career, for really no fault of this damn cat. Get away from me. Hold on a second. Man, my freaking neighbor's cat comes up. I'm sitting here in my little office, which is like kind of off to the side of our bedroom, and this black and white cat jumps up on the windowsill and is looking in the window. And you know what it's going to go do now? It's going to go take a shit in my yard that I got to go pick up.
Dude, I thought the cat was in the house.
No.
I was like, where did you get a cat?
And it's coming. What is it looking in my damn window for? I need to go. This thing's an asshole. I hate this cat. Now it's looking in the window like it wants to get in here. It's meowing at us.
Wow. What you got to do is just put a little oil on the seal so when he jumps up, he falls down.
Why does it think it lives here? Now it's just meowing at me, looking at me. Yeah, that's right.
Maybe he finds you attractive. I
got to figure something out with this cat. Problem is it scares the birds. I'm pretty sure it attacked a bird, and it takes shits in my yard. Do you hear it? I don't know if you can hear it or not.
No,
anyway.
I can't hear it.
So
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, did you hear it meow?
Yeah.
Like, what is it doing?
Dude, be nice to the cat. The animal rights activists will not enjoy the show if you're not nice to the cat. Matt has left the building.
So to get back to what we were originally talking about before the random ass cat jumped up on my windowsill. Yeah, it's wild to think that everything kind of comes full circle, that you and Scott did that show together, and then me and Scott got a chance to really do a show together that brought me back eventually to where you and I did the show together and have been doing it now for, 2.5 years or whatever it's been, which is crazy.
Yeah, the full circle thing with me, you, and Scott, that's one of the more amazing things to me.
I know, it really is. I mean, it's so random.
No, it's completely random. But, that's probably why, if I think about it, it's probably why Kat decided me and you could do a good show together, because he probably figured you and Scott were similar in the type of things you did.
Yeah.
And that me and you would fit because me and him fit.
Yeah, apparently. And he was right. And it worked quite well. So 10 years ago today, Jacques and Scott Harrison on the ticket, which is crazy. Also, we'll be on the ticket. We're on the ticket. I think now the football season is over. As long as we and our schedules want to do it, we'll be doing every Sunday noon to 3.
Right.
Now, that there are some weeks coming up, I think, where I may have to miss. We'll see how that works. But, I don't think that'll happen until April at the earliest. But sometimes, the Sunday thing, like if you have to go out of town or whatever, we'll see how that works. But Kind of wild, man. All that stuff that comes full circle like that. Also, if you are listening to this on Wednesday, I will be at Odd Muse Wednesday nights for trivia at 7 o'clock. False Idol Brewing Thursday nights at 7 o'clock. And this week, we didn't get a chance to do it last week because of the snow and the ice and everything, so trivia got canceled. So we're doing John Hughes movie trivia, which is kind of random. But I thought it would be like different and a fun idea. And so for those that don't know, John Hughes wrote a lot of those like 80s teen angst, coming of age type movies. And so it's like Ferris Bueller's Day Off and Breakfast Club, Pretty in Pink, movies like that everybody I think is fairly familiar. I hope is familiar with. Although I have to tell you this, man. We were going through in preparation for this trivia, watching some of the movies, and my lady friend hadn't seen a few of them. Now, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles was one she had never seen. She watched it and enjoyed it. It still holds up. It's great. Some of the movies, like She's Having a Baby, do not really hold up here in the year of 2021. Like the writing is there, but like just some of the things, like for instance, Weird Science, we couldn't get 30 minutes into the movie. She's like, this movie's horrible. Like, I can't watch this movie. It's like, are you kidding me? Why? And she just, it's just so different that time period from what it is today. And she just did not. And to be fair, I mean, Weird Science is basically every teenage boy's fantasy of creating a woman that basically does whatever he wants.
Yeah, what's wrong with that?
Right. Yeah. So, my lady friend had no interest in watching that.
Really?
Right. I mean, I'm not kidding you, dude. We're 30 minutes into it, and I finally was like, you know what? We'll just turn it off. Like, it's fine. Forget it. And so we did. But if you're a fan of those movies, then find me Farmers Branch this Wednesday night, February 24th at Odd Muse Brewing. And then again on False Idol out there in North Richland Hills on Thursday night at 7 o'clock for trivia. Most of the time it's general knowledge. Like we do that most of the time. And then once a month I pick a theme just to kind of change it up and make it a little fun. But, we've talked about trivia several times because I'm such a huge fan. I was trying to figure out some other themes to do. I think I'm going to have to do 90s trivia at some point. And then I thought about this. And I know that my lady friend and all of her friends absolutely love Taylor Swift. I thought, I could do a Taylor Swift trivia that might bring out a lot of women to the breweries that don't normally go.
That would be the case because, I don't think I know any Taylor Swift trivia.
Yeah, I could recognize a few songs, but, some of these, these...
can you come up with 40 questions for Taylor Swift trivia?
I think I probably could. You'd have to look into her life and what song is this from, and it'd be like maybe playing a little bit more and, what are the lyrics immediately after this and stuff like that, and... it'd be interesting. I had a Taylor Swift question like in my general knowledge trivia one time, and like a few of the girls that were in there were like, oh, and they all started singing along with it. I was like, Jesus. Like, okay, we'll see. Also, I thought this was cool. Speaking of breweries, last week when we went through the water crisis, and I know some people apparently are still having problems with that, a lot of breweries, not just in the North Texas area, but across the state. But here in the North Texas area, there were several breweries that made it known that, hey, if you need water, you can swing by, bring whatever container you need, and we will fill it up for you. And I thought that was really awesome. 903 in Sherman did it. I know Celestial did it. A few others, like Oak Highlands Brewery, was offering that as well. And there's several others. A lot of the ones in Fort Worth, like Panther Island and Wild Acre, we're doing it as well. And that's one of those things, with these local communities, and breweries are so local. And we tell you guys this all the time. One of the things I love about the craft beer world is it really is like a giant family. And right. I thought it was really cool to see breweries stepping up like that all across the state and saying, hey, man, you need to fill up whatever gallon thing you got, bring it because we've got the water for you.
No, and they've got great water because who knew breweries had to have such pure filtrated water to make the beer taste good? Because I didn't.
Yeah, it is not only filtered, which is probably what they were doing, but in a lot of the times the stuff that they'll use that they actually brew with, it's not just filtered, they treat it specially as well. And so for them to open up a hose, if they've got the water, I thought that was really cool of them to invite people over to just be like, hey, man, what do you need? Let's go. Make it happen. Because obviously breweries use a ton of water as it is. And I did think it was interesting that as far as I know, most breweries had water and didn't have any struggles with that. At least from the ones that I am familiar with. I'm sure some probably lost power and whatnot. I know Celestial lost power for a couple of days, but when they got open back up, I thought that was pretty cool of them to start offering water. False Idol was doing it as well. So good on those guys. Also, I think we talked about this on the ticket, and this is what happens is sometimes we're like, was it podcast or ticket? Was it both? Did we already do this? And I know we talked about it on Sunday on the ticket, but that plane that it had the engine explode when it was taken off from Denver, it was on its way to Hawaii. It was a United flight. I'm sure by now everybody saw the footage of it. You know, passengers on the plane were filming videos of the burning engine as they're in the sky. And then you saw the pictures of the giant engine pieces that were falling from the sky. Somehow, nobody was killed or injured whatsoever in all of this. The plane landed safely. But man, it got me thinking about all these different things and all the flights. And I only fly like 2 or 3 times a year, but I have never, ever been on a flight ever that had any sort of even mild problem at all. Other than, and to be honest with you, probably the worst flight I've ever been on in turbulence was the one we took leaving Miami last year.
Which I don't even remember. I think I was asleep.
You were. I'm like freaking out, telling Alan, like, I'm pretty sure the wing is on fire. And he goes, dude, those are the lights bouncing off the clouds. It's fine. He's reading a book, getting annoyed with me, and we're bouncing around. And I look over at Jacques. He's dead asleep. I'm like, oh, my God. Like, we are bouncing all over the place.
No, I'm like you. I don't really remember having a bad flight from turbulence or anything like that. As much as I fly, and you know, sometimes your anxiety can get to you, can get to anybody when you fly a lot. And the few, because it's never been an issue for me in general, but I'd say the few times for whatever reason you're feeling a little anxious, or maybe the weather's not good or whatever, I used to just tell myself, and this should not shock you at all, Matt. I'd be like, how many sports teams fly? How many flights has a basketball player taken or a baseball player taken in his career? And I think about somebody, okay, how many flights has Magic Johnson taken in his Lakers career? Okay, I should be all right.
Yeah, I think about that all the time too, man. I mean, you got to think if you are like, just take an NBA player, you're flying, you've got 41 away dates, so that's at least 41 times you've got to get on a plane to go somewhere, and then 41 times coming back. That's a minimum of 82 times a year, just a minimum, like just at the very least. And then flying to whatever other obligations you may have. I mean, that's one of those things, right?
Times your career.
Yeah.
You know, so.
And then, there's people like one of my buddies, Nick. He doesn't do this anymore, but he used to, where he works in advertising, and he had an account that was in Ohio. And there were times where he basically, like how we would get in the car and commute, he would fly to Ohio in the morning, work with the client, then fly back in the evening. And that was just his commute. Like, and he would do that. Right. Sometimes he would have to do a couple of days a week. Sometimes if he knew he was going to have to be up there for 3 days or whatever, he'd fly in on a Monday and fly back on a Thursday. But I mean, that's not uncommon. And then I think, like, I have a girl I graduated high school with that I'm still friends with on Facebook. And this popped in my memory because today is her 20th anniversary as a flight attendant for Southwest Airlines. And I think, okay, how many flights a day? Because I think she works like 3 days out of the week. And it's like, okay, it's not like she flies somewhere and is done for the day. I mean, her job is you get on a flight and then fly. And then maybe you fly back to Dallas in the evening, and you're on 4 or 5 flights a day for 20 years.
Yeah. I mean, and that's how I take a little solace from it.
Yeah, and I think about that too. And that's what is so funny. And I might have told you this story before, but my brother Chris, this was years ago, was on a flight where the oxygen mask came down.
Whoa.
And you think about that, like all the flights that we just talked about people taking, and you never hear about anything like this. And that's what's so random is my brother who, I mean, now he flies more because he travels all over the place. But he was on a flight leaving Cincinnati. And for those that don't know, to fly into Cincinnati, you actually fly into an airport in northern Kentucky.
Right.
And they flew into that Cincinnati airport, northern Kentucky, whatever the name of it is. And when he was taking off from there, they had to get down so quickly because the cabin lost pressure when the oxygen mask had popped out, which is what caused it. They landed at another airport in Kentucky. I mean, that's like nothing. They were probably in the air for like 20 minutes max. And he he said, man, when those oxygen masks came down and the pilot came on and said, we're going to have to stabilize cabin pressure, we're going to be dropping pretty quick here, that he's like, man, you thought you were plummeting to the ground and this is it.
Dude, I can't imagine that.
Yeah, and I was like, well, it would have been for me because I would have just grabbed a free pin or something and jabbed myself in the neck to make sure I didn't experience the free fall. I'm like, well, I'm done. Thanks for having me. But yeah, man. I mean, that's what's so crazy is you see things like that in the video footage and whatnot on that plane. And I don't know how they would have kept me calm other than to just shotgun vodka or whatever. I'd have been like, whatever minis you have, you need to give them to me right now. But sir, you're going to pass out. Good.
That's the whole goal. Now give them to me.
Yeah, because I'm not waiting to find out whether or not that engine screws us or we land safely. So once again, time to check in. As always, we do it every week, except last week when I didn't have power and we were unable to do a podcast. But
why couldn't Jacques do it?
Yeah, right? Man, well, you know what? He doesn't have the equipment. I'm the one that has like the setup that makes it all work together. So I guess that's
fair.
Yeah, be fair.
Let's mark that statement that Jacques doesn't have the equipment and we can have it mean many things.
But we welcome in our ESPN Cowboys Insider, brought to you by BlueStarMotorGroup.com. Todd Archer joining us. And man, a lot to get into. Today is the first day of the 2-week period the Cowboys have to tag whoever they want to tag. Technically,
whoever they want to.
The tag deadline is March 9th. We assume that would be Dak Prescott. You had a fascinating article, I thought, with the really cool idea last week that came out about something that could work. But before we get into that, what do you see as the chances that something actually gets done before they have to tag them here 2 weeks from today?
I'm going to go with history, and history tells me it's not going to get done because we thought it would get done in the 2019 offseason. We thought it would get done in the 2020 offseason, and here we are in 2021. We're still talking about it. So, as we've discussed before, there's a lot of things this year that make it more difficult to get to get a deal done because of the cap and the pandemic and all these things that have affected this stuff. Okay, Dak last year wanted 4 years. Well, does this year he want 3? If that's the road that everybody's going to be going down, then it just tells me that I'm not going to say a deal is going to get done. However, the fact that they've had, and I wrote this in a tweet / shortstop on Monday, the fact that they've had discussions, if not negotiations, is at least some kind of sign that they're going to operate here in the next couple of weeks to actually try and do something and not just wait until March 8th to say, hey, what do you think? Yeah, we're not really looking for that. Okay, well, we're going to tag you. Maybe there's some small, brief light at the end of a long and dark tunnel that you can peer at and say, okay, maybe both sides really do want to get this thing done for real this time.
I think so, man. I think that's – and I talked about this on the podcast the other day, that as much as I get on the Cowboys from time to time, or most of the time, Dak also has to say, okay, this is the thing that's most important to me, or this is what I really need to get it done. And then he has to tell his agent, okay, Dallas is the place I want to be. Get me as close as you can get to my stuff, and then let's get it done. Because ultimately, Todd France works for Dak, not the other way around. And I don't care who you are. Sometimes athletes lose sight of that.
Right, because the agent is the one who's versed in all of these talks and knows the numbers backwards and forwards. It's like, look, there are reasons why, like, when we're at the doctor, we're not like going to listen to our buddy say something about it. We're going to listen to the doctor. So, it's a little bit like that, but you're right. And I think this is the first time really to think of all the big deals that the Cowboys have done. I don't know, the last 10 years. This is the first time a player really hasn't been involved in these talks. And DeMarcus Lawrence, the reason why that deal got done is he talked to Stephen Jones. He talked to his agent, David Cannon, and said, let's do a deal. Within 48 hours, the Cowboys had a deal. Zach Martin, his goal was to get $14 million a year and 40 guarantees. Once that happened, they had a deal. And that was one that, remember, took a little bit longer than the normal ones because the first year they could have extended him, He's like, nah, we're good. I don't want to do anything. Once we get in the season, I'm not going to talk. So that took a little bit. Dak has not taken that step yet, and maybe now he does. And Jock, you mentioned it. Like, we can blame the Cowboys, but you also have to look at Dak's side and say that there's a reason why the deal's not done as well. And I think if Dak just says, this is what I want because I really, 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 really want to be here, the Cowboys will make that happen. When have they not made that happen when a guy has said, I want X and I want Y? When have they not given them X and Y? Now, some of the terms might be on their side in having a longer-term deal, but we're past that. Like, we're past the 5 and 4 thing, and that's why I think what I wrote last week just seemed to be like, all right, I'm tired of writing, they want 5, they want 4. So we come to some kind of a bridge of a solution, and maybe that's something that could actually be a solution that works for both sides.
Yeah, and you can make the void so that there's no way around the void. I mean, you can make the number so high.
He's on the roster. Well, you just say the void would be he's on the roster this day of this league year, and it's void. Like, he didn't even have to do anything. He just needs to be on the team.
That's I mean, it's as easy as that. As I always like to say, man, it's about getting creative and figuring out a way to get it done. Steven has always been good about that. And so now it's just the time to be creative and figure out a way to hammer it out and get it done because, I don't know that we've ever gotten Todd's opinion on this, but Matt and I talking about it all the time, that the quarterback journey is a lonely place. And it doesn't have to, it's not like there's no finite end to it. It can last 20, 30, 40 years once you lose that guy that you deem the franchise quarterback.
Right. And we've discussed this before, how lucky the Cowboys have been in getting their last 2 quarterbacks. Romo is an undrafted free agent, and obviously Dak in the 4th round. Now, I'll also say between Aikman and Romo, they didn't really throw any kind of capital at the position. The one time they did was Quincy as a 2nd-round pick in 2001. Every other time was, hey, let's just hit and hope that Chad Hutchinson can do something for us, or Drew Henson can do something, or sign a veteran like Testaverde or Bledsoe. Like that, they didn't actually do a huge move up and give up multiple 1st-round picks to go get a guy. They've never done that. The history tells you, like, I don't know if they know what a quarterback looks like because they've not done it.
Well, they didn't do it back in the day because that's before the new rules came in. And if you want a quarterback, you had to commit to those, $50 million Sam Bradford contracts and then hope that the guy didn't bust. And so I think they were always trying to get one on the cheap. At least now we've seen teams go, okay, we thought Carson Wentz was the guy, but he's not. We'll take this huge hit now and get out of it. Or, Matt Stafford wants out. We're in a different spot. Okay, we'll take this $22 million hit and get out of it. Which leads me to this. Why do you think Matt can still engage in this conversation, but why do you think quarterbacks...
Did his pyro go out again?
I'm still alive.
Why do you think court teams have been more quickly to turn off quarterbacks? Because Dak is the only guy still with his team from the 2016 draft.
Right. I think some of it probably is the numbers involved, while costly, maybe aren't as prohibitive. Now, you say, how could Jared Goff at $27 million and Wentz maybe at $33 million not be prohibitive? Well, for the Eagles, they're going to have a 2nd-round pick as their quarterback and maybe get a low-cost veteran, so their total number at that position is going to be $38 million bucks. And you have a guy counting 33 that's on your team. But again, it's costly but not prohibitive. That's the only thing I can think of because. But I'll also say, look, 2 years ago, was there anybody that said, I can't believe the Rams and Eagles just put that kind of money into Wentz and Goff? No one said that. And if they are now, they're just kind of like trying to puff up their chest and say, I told you so. Right. That's the price you pay, though, when it doesn't work out. And I'm still surprised the Rams thing fell apart as much as it did. And maybe we should have seen it coming in the wild card game when they chose to start John Wofford over Goff. Even though he could play in the game and clearly had to come in the first quarter of that game and play. I'm surprised that one went sideways as quick as it did because he got you to a Super Bowl. He was within a Gronkowski catch at the goal line against the Patriots of probably winning that Super Bowl. So that one surprised me a little bit. But I just think the cost of doing business at the quarterback position is probably not the same as it was when you mentioned it, like Sam Bradford made hundreds of millions of dollars with how many different teams did he play for? 3? Like with
at least,
legit contracts, and he was never really any good. So now you're in a situation where you can kind of get out of it pretty quickly. But I'm going to turn this back to Dak here in a second. This whole narrative that the Cowboys don't believe in Dak, or there's something that's holding them back from signing Dak. If that's the case, why would they have even gone down this road of giving him the offers that they gave him, that Dak has turned down? It was $110 million guaranteed. If you don't believe in a guy and you're giving the dude $110 million, well, then you're just an idiot, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That narrative has never made sense to me when people want to throw that one out there. There are reasons why this thing's not gotten done, and mostly it's contract length, and I'm sure there's cash flow issues that we don't even know about. But the fact that if you're going to say they don't believe in him, I think that's idiotic.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it's interesting, the article that you wrote, because I'm curious to get your take. Jacques and I talked about this at length in our last podcast, where the sweet spot is, because factually, yes, it's true that somebody taking up more than basically 17% of the cap, that they've never had real success, not just a quarterback, but any player. I mean, any player who takes up that much of the cap, those teams don't tend to have much of a playoff life, if at all. Where do you see the limits being on that? Is that something where with Dak, when you look at this, because even on your numbers, if say they did the voidable 4-year deal that was a 6-year deal at $42.5 million cap hit, if the cap is $250 million, that's still a 17% hit. If it's lower than that, obviously that percentage goes up. Where do you see that being limiting? Or is it just something that hasn't happened yet, that eventually one of these guys that makes 17, 18, 20% of the cap will break through?
I think it just hasn't happened yet, in my sense. And I think a lot of it is fear. Teams sign these contracts, these quarterbacks to these contracts for fear, and part of what we were just talking about. They know there's not a lot of these dudes out there, and if you have one, you better do what you can to keep them. Now, that can go in many different directions with the Cowboys and Dak these last 2 off seasons, but fear is a great motivator in all these things. Look, go back to however many years ago it was now, 4 or 5, 6, whatever it was, when like Andy Dalton and Tannehill in Miami and a couple of these other guys signed their contracts, and you're like, they're paying Andy Dalton $17 million a year? Did they really think Andy Dalton was worth $17 million? This is when 17 was like a top 5 number, right? It was,
right,
somewhere around that. Like, do they really think Andy Dalton's that good? Well, no, but they didn't have any. What was their options if they didn't have Andy Dalton on their team or Tannehill on their team? So that was the cost of doing business. I think the Cowboys have always been in a position in these Dak talks where they were willing to pay the cost of business because they were at $32 or $33 million a year in 2019 after Goff and Wentz signed their thing. They weren't there, obviously, in the beginning because they didn't need to be, but they moved up to that one eventually. They were at $35 million last year after the Mahomes deal, but right around the same time Watson got done. So that seems to be the cost of doing business. And now they're going to be probably above $35 million when this thing comes in. So I have no idea what point I'm trying to make as to what you just asked me. But I think I'm trying to say that fear in this position of not having a guy leads you to do things that maybe you wouldn't do. But that 17% number, I mean, I guess that's why the Chiefs, and look, I don't know what Mahomes' number is this year, but clearly you can't pay a quarterback $500 million or you're never going to win a Super Bowl because Mahomes didn't do it this first year. Right? I mean, is anybody going to look at the Mahomes deal and say, well, the Chiefs made a mistake, they didn't win the Super Bowl this year? No. So I think fear is a big operator in this thing.
Well, actually, some people will look at it like that and say that. But I think
they're idiots too. We don't have to listen to that. Kind of like when David Irving talked about the Dallas Cowboys. Why do we care what David Irving has to say about the Cowboys? That freaking guy. Sorry.
The thing me and Matt were trying to point out is, just on a limited scale, is that the object is to be in a hunt every year or as many years as you can to be a real Super Bowl contender, because only one team is going to win it every year, obviously.
Right.
And so if you look at the numbers, then typically in the championship game or the divisional round, you have a mix of high-paid quarterbacks, the stars of the league, and guys who are on their rookie deal who typically become the future stars of the league, like Mahomes or like Russell Wilson. And so
Josh Allen,
yeah, exactly. Like he was the only guy on the rookie year this year, but Big Ben and Aaron Rodgers and Breeze and all those guys whose teams won 12 games or more, they were all in the top half of quarterbacks and top 10 of highest paid guys. So it's not the money that stops you from winning a Super Bowl. It's about getting there, and the money doesn't prevent you from getting there. Those guys just haven't won it for whatever reason.
If they sign Dak to a $37 million a year contract here in the next 10 days or whatever, right? And the Cowboys win one Super Bowl in the next, let's just say he signs a 4-year deal. In the next 4 years, is anybody going to complain about that?
Nope.
No,
right?
Not at all.
Like, I mean, is Kansas City going to, they got to the Super Bowl this year and should be back again based on what we think of their roster and how they've planned this thing out. Like, how many does he have to win in the next 10 years for them to make it worth it? 2? When you've gone 25 years without getting to a conference title game or without winning a Super Bowl, don't you just start at this point to say, I'll take one?
No doubt. I mean, you could pay him $50 million a year if he wins a Super Bowl. I don't even get $100 million a year. Who cares? If you win a Super Bowl, whatever the price is.
Whatever we say about Dak, right, and right about Dak, like your first comment is the Cowboys should have paid this man a long time ago. And then the next comment is Dak is trash. Like, where are these people who think Dak is trash coming from? Like, what have you seen from him that says he's awful and can't be a guy that wins games for you? Like,
because he puts up all his numbers in the fourth quarter, man, when they're already bad, when they're already trailing.
Well, sometimes that's not all his fault. Now, is that actually true? Or is that just something like, remember at the end of Marcus Ware's career became, he never makes a big play on third down. And then you look at his sack total, and he's got like double the sacks that he has on third down than he had on any other, the third and fourth down than he would have had on any other down. Like, it's just something that people say that all of a sudden, yep, well, this is what's true. Ware never gets big-time sacks. Like, well, is a sack on first down not a big-time play when it's second and 20?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I think Dak has been a remarkably good quarterback that has performed well. And he's had some moments that haven't been good, but he's had some moments from the team around him that have not been good. I don't know. I think the guy's a really good quarterback. I think there are issues that he has that you have to work with, not around, but work with, that you can still win with them. Like, I just don't understand why people. I don't understand the disparate takes of people who like this team. If you don't like the dude, become a fan of another team. Like, why let it bother you that much?
That's what I think. I've always thought that's weird. Is it's the segment of whatever it is, and I still think it's a small percentage of the fan base, but I've never understood why would you hate if you love the Cowboys, like supposedly you act like you do. Why would you hate the quarterback and want him to suck and think he's trash? It's so odd to me. Like, obviously, this is a guy they believe in. Wouldn't you want to see the good in what he is doing, which is pretty damn good?
Right. And look, carry that over to Jerry, right? Like, he's been the owner for 30-something years. He's been the same guy since he's been here. Like, if he bothers you that much, go root for another team. Like, I mean, why let it? Nothing. He ain't selling. He ain't changing his role.
Right.
Go find something that will make you happy. Like,
well, yeah,
why let
come on,
angst?
Todd.
I know I'm being Pollyanna.
Todd, if Jerry would just fire himself as GM,
then God, yeah,
everything would be better.
Everything would be better. Yeah.
I mean,
because everything's better with every other team that has a traditional GM too.
It's just insane to me. Well, and it's like the garbage stat thing. It's like how pissed were Chiefs fans in the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl that Pat Mahomes was racking up numbers trying to get his team back in the game. Are they all, oh my God, look at Mahomes in the fourth quarter. We're getting our ass kicked in the Super Bowl. Mahomes gets all these yardage. Oh, what a great quarterback. Look at these things he's doing. It's so strange. Like, what do they want Dak to do? You want him to just hike the ball and throw the ball into the ground? Oh, well, the game's over. No, why even throw it down the field?
Well, that gets into this. I always like the stat. The Cowboys are, I don't know what the stat is now, but let's say that when Zeke gets 20 carries, the Cowboys are 17-3. Well, the first 20 plays of the game, just hand the ball to Zeke because you're going to win. Right? Because that's what the stat says.
Yeah, same thing.
Carries, you win the game. Just give him the ball the first 20 plays of the game. Yeah.
Awesome.
My favorite is when they go, well, Brady does this and Rodgers does that and Breeze does this and Dak can't do any of that. I go, so if you're not a first ballot Hall of Fame quarterback, you don't want the guy.
We'll take it to the safety position, Jacques, right? How many times from the time Darren Woodson retired, everybody said, the Cowboys need to go get an Ed Reed. How many Ed Reeds have there been? I'll give, maybe Earl Thomas for a little bit of a run there was Ed Reed, but there's one Ed Reed. Go get it. Yeah. Troy Polamalu. Which one? Tell me who that guy is. Like, it's not like that's the guy they need. Well, no kidding, that's the guy they need. But show me, who is that guy?
Right.
Now, yeah, I mean, let me ask. All right, March 9th comes. And you probably got to get rid of me, but March 9th comes, and there's no deal, and they tag him. What's the next plan for the Cowboys? Now, they're going to say, we have until July 15th to work out a deal. We're still optimistic. Yep, blah, 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 blah. But we know what's going to happen. He's going to play the year in the tag. What do you guys do on March 9th if there's no deal? If you're the Cowboys, what do you do?
What do you mean? You mean like what's the future for the quarterback?
Right. Do you tag him and just say, well,
you know what? Honestly,
see what happens next year.
I think
draft a guy.
Yeah.
You say, Dak, here's our blessing. You go seek a trade because there's all these people out there say, well, hey, the Cowboys should just sign and trade him now. No, I don't think people realize he has to sign the tender to get traded.
Right.
That's an effective no trade clause.
Yep.
So if you want to send him to pick a team, help me out with a team that he would not want to go to. I can't think of one right now, but pick a team that the Texans because they're a mess.
Sure.
Well, I mean, he can say, I'm not going there. And then you have no trade. So
yeah, he refuses to sign it. Right, yeah.
No, I think you just if you get him on the tender, if you have to franchise him, I think you just go about it pretty much because you can't trade him. You go about it as business as usual. Try to put the best team around him, understanding that next year you got to go get a quarterback. I'm not really going to get a quarterback to sit this year and learn because I think, I'd rather just have another player capable of helping me try to get this championship before he gets out of town.
So it turns into an all-in type of year, and Jerry says it's all-in every year. But
I'd be really all-in this year.
Right. Well, that turns into more difficult to do when you have that much on the cap. Now, his first-year cap number in the deal will be like $30 million anyway, so it's not going to be a huge savings. Right. But, yeah, that makes it difficult to do. But then you're in the situation where
well, see, we're all in, so I'm restructuring everybody because we're all in for this year.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking that too. Just kick it down the road.
Yeah, understanding that we're going to take who knows what the next quarterback situation is. We're either going to have to move, draft a guy, or we're going to have to go the Colts route, which is try to patchwork it for a couple of times.
Or what Washington did, right? When Kirk Cousins, they knew he was gone. What did they do? They traded for Alex Smith, and he had him in first place in the division before he got hurt. He was playing really well before he got hurt that year. So, but there's not an Alex Smith type that I could see right now that you'd say, okay, that would be the guy to go get. But
is Andy Dalton the Alex Smith type?
No.
See, I think Andy Dalton is perfect as the backup. I don't think he showed me anything that makes me want him to be a starter.
Yeah, you would want somebody, even if it's a bridge guy.
I want Andy Dalton to start 4 or 5 games. I don't know if I want Andy Dalton to start 10 or 11 games.
Right.
Yeah, this could get really interesting because if that happens and they have to go that route, then if you're banking on 21 as everything, if you don't get there, Dak's gone. To me, you might as well blow this thing up because you're going to go through a period hoping that you get the right quarterback to come in here where you're just screwed for a few years.
You don't have to blow it up. I mean, you can find they'll try to patchwork it with, like I said, like the Colts. There'll always be a aging veteran available. A Vinny Testaverde, a Drew Bledsoe. There'll always be
a Tom Brady.
A Tom Brady. There'll always be that guy available.
I would say Phillip Rivers wasn't Vinny or Drew. Phillip Rivers was still a pretty darn good quarterback.
Hey, Ben Roethlisberger might be out there. He's got a couple of rings.
But there'll be guys available as you try to patchwork it because they're never going to break. They're never going to tear it down and blow it up. That just ain't the way they roll.
Right.
So they're never going to do that. They'll try to patch it while they find the quarterback. But man, to me, it should never get to that because you just have to. It's what I've said all along. You're not winning this negotiation. You don't have any leverage. You don't have anything. This is the one where you just got to take the L if you want the guy, and punish some other people as they come up later.
But isn't it? But don't both sides have to take a little bit of an L, don't they? If Dak really wants to be here,
if he really wants to be here, yes. But
that's why
that's the thing.
I'm talking like small L. I'm not talking like
right.
A
that's what I always
losing streak kind of thing. And it's like, he's got to take a loss that's like it's a last second field goal that you lost. You're like, dang, I wish we should have won that one, but okay, we did some good things in this one. You know what I mean? Like that kind of L.
No, I mean, that's why I've always said it's up to Dak to, just like we just said, to tell Todd France this, or even tell the Cowboys, this right here is exactly what I want on these two fronts. These are the 1 and 2 things most important to me. We can, negotiate a couple of other things, but I got to have this one and that one. And that's what you do if you want to make a deal. This is what's most important to me. I got to have this. I got to have that. And we can talk about the rest.
And then when they do that, what are we going to say? Well, how come that didn't happen sooner?
Because deadlines make deals.
well, and then we can get into the agent was trying to move some things here to become get his own agency, and then move to a different agency.
Let's not. Conversation. And that's why Dak has to say, you work for me, I don't work for you, and I understand that you want to put this contract together so you can tell all your future clients, say, oh, look at the great deal I got that nobody else has ever gotten in the history of the world. But for what's most important to me is to get this thing done.
Yeah, and again, this is the first time it's gotten this far with any of the big-time stars the Cowboys have wanted to keep.
Yeah.
And that's what makes this thing so fascinating. And just hopefully we're on the last legs of this and we're not going through a whole from now until July 15th and then through another 16 or 17 game season of just talking about Dak's future and what the Cowboys should have done, what they didn't do, what Dak should have done, what Dak didn't do, and then writing about whatever the great quarterback prospects there will be in 2022. So I can't think of who that would be. Who's Ohio State got coming in? When's that South Lake kid going to be drafted?
He's not even getting there until 2022. You got to wait till 2025 to get him.
Oh, awesome. All right. We'll see how it plays out. Todd, thanks for hanging for a while, man. We appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks, fellas. Appreciate it.
All right. See you.
All right.
There he is. Todd Archer, brought to you as always by BlueStarMotorGroup.com. Give Deb a call if you are looking or trying to sell or buy, whatever your car need may be. You can give Deb a call, 817-881-4066. Also, of course, don't forget about the wings at Kroger. You're probably hungry right now. The last couple of days have been perfect for grilling or throwing stuff in an air fryer. Swing by Kroger, man. Mango habanero, buffalo blue cheese. I've got those 2 flavors at most North Texas Kroger locations. I've had them many times. Jacques has had them many times. Several of you guys continue to just send us pictures of when you're preparing your wings, which is awesome. I love seeing when people go and support one of our sponsors, like, hey, check out. And I'm just like, man, it's really cool to see the support that you guys give us. So go and make that happen. If there's a Kroger near you, check them out. And again, don't forget, look, if you're trying to get these wings and your Kroger doesn't have them, just tell the guy at the meat counter, I've seen them at another Kroger. Can you order them so that I can buy them here? And they should be able to do that for you. Should be fairly simple.
And they're fantastic, man, because there's no breading on them, just meat and flavor. And, you can put them in the air fryer like I do, put them on the grill like Matt loves to do, in the stove. Like I like to do that, too. I like to broil them up. And I still have yet to try them in a cast iron skillet on top of the stove. But, hey, maybe that's coming, too.
Maybe it is. There's a lot of different ways you can prepare them, but you got to get them. At most North Texas Kroger locations, check out the wings, mango habanero, buffalo blue cheese. I think you're going to highly enjoy them. Also, of course, Lauren Laddig, if you are looking to improve your financial portfolio in a variety of different ways, Edward Jones financial advisor Lauren Laddig can help you. Maybe you're looking at retirement planning. It could be 401k questions, rollovers, stocks and bonds, whatever the case may be. Lauren has a variety of ways she can connect with you. She can connect with you virtually. You can talk to her on the phone. You can give her a call, 972-563-6364. If you are trying to develop a better long-term financial strategy, and I don't know why you wouldn't want to do that, Lauren is the one who can help you. She's big fans of what we do. We love her, so please give her your support as well if you do have those financial questions. Again, that's Lauren Laddig, 972-563-6364. Give her a call today with your financial planning questions, and she'll get you set on the right track. So before we wrap this thing up today, I wanted to get into this for a little bit here because I thought this was interesting. I asked you this earlier, and you just laughed, and I was curious. You got to be familiar with Daft Punk, right?
Why do I have to be familiar with Daft Punk?
Because, see, they're one of these.
I have never, ever heard of them until you mentioned them today.
All right, let me see if you, and I'm going to play some music for you, and hopefully you'll be able to hear this. I don't know why you wouldn't be able to, but let me know if you can. Can you hear this?
Yes.
Okay. This is Daft Punk.
Like the legend of the Phoenix.
Now, that's not them singing. That's
with beginnings.
Pharrell.
What keeps the planet spinning?
So they did the song Get Lucky. All night. You know that song?
Nope.
Okay.
We've come too far to give up.
So they won the Grammy for their album Random Access Memories that came out a few years back, and they've had several popular songs. I was trying to find one that maybe you have heard. I don't know, how familiar are you with stuff that The Weeknd has done, if at all, other than Blinding Lights?
I'm familiar with The Weeknd.
Okay, so you may know this song then. I'm trying to pull it up because they did. So basically what Daft Punk was a French electronic like EDM duo. And I bring this up because Daft Punk had been together for 28 years, and they just announced on their social media pages that they are breaking up and that they are no more. Daft Punk, nobody really ever saw their faces. They wore those shiny metallic helmets everywhere they went, every award show, everywhere. Like, nobody knows really what they look like unless you happen to like Google and try to find a picture of what they look like without their helmets on, which is kind of cool. I don't know. Like, I always thought that was a cool thing, where they weren't super concerned with fame and who they were, but more so just putting out this type of stuff that they worked with. So this is Starboy from The Weeknd, and this is Daft Punk.
I don't understand. They like playing the music?
Yes. Yeah. They don't sing. They're the guys that are doing like the electronic type music in the background. And they've had a bunch of hits. I mean, a bunch of stuff that, you know, like for instance, Kanye West did that Harder, Better, Faster, Stronger song. Well, that wasn't Kanye West. That was originally Daft Punk. And so
make it, do it, makes us harder, better, faster, stronger.
So that's Daft Punk, and they originally did that, and then Kanye West sampled it and turned it into a massive hit. So, like, I think a lot of people are probably familiar with some of the stuff that they've done. You know, they did that song, One More Time, and they just kind of did that and really put EDM and, you know, vaulted it into a new realm where I think it's probably more popular than ever. They did a lot of the stuff for when Tron Legacy, that movie, came out. Most of the soundtrack was Daft Punk. So and I am a big fan of certain types of EDM, and I really enjoy a lot of the stuff that Daft Punk does. Now, I wanted to have this conversation because it's not like I was like devastated that Daft Punk broke up. I thought it was kind of wild after being together for 28 years and having great success. I think they've won 6 Grammys that they broke up. But I was curious, in your musical life, has a band ever broken up, or has a singer left a band that you were a fan of that really kind of threw you off, or you were like, damn, that sucks?
Initially, as I date myself, I would say when Lionel Richie left the Commodores.
Okay, yeah.
And then later, when Bobby Brown left New Edition, I was like, damn. But then they all went on to have great solo careers. So I was like, I guess that's why they left.
Yeah.
I would say those, you know, obviously I grew up because my mom was a huge Jackson 5 fan. So when Michael Jackson decided to go solo, that was kind of devastating back in the day.
Man.
But most people just remember Michael Jackson as Michael Jackson. They don't remember the J5.
Now, I obviously I know a couple of Jackson 5 songs, but when that happened, was that like a big deal? Was that like, oh my God, he's leaving the Jackson 5?
Yeah, because you never heard none of the other Jacksons. Jermaine Jackson had a career. Mm-hmm. But, and Janet, although she was never really part of the Jackson 5, but, Marlon and Jackie and Tito, it was a wrap for them. I don't know what they did other than live off the royalties and the Jackson name after that.
Yeah.
But they didn't have careers. And so, that was a big deal back in the time, man, because he was branching out. But, sometimes you're so talented, you got to go. And so I'd be interested to know why they broke up after 28 years.
Yeah, and I read a couple of things about it, and it really kind of seems like more like it's just been so long, and they hadn't really done anything since 2017, where maybe it's just time to move on and do their own thing. I always wonder about bands like that, like the Eagles, obviously, who went through some problems and broke up. The Police is a great example in the mid-'80s where Sting finally left, or Genesis, who had a lot of hits in the 80s, and then Phil Collins wanted to go off and do his own thing, and probably had a way more successful solo career than Genesis did, despite the fact how big Genesis was. I don't think of the Jackson 5 because I was a little before my time, obviously, but like Chicago with Peter Cetera, who ended up leaving and doing his own thing. And there's been so many examples of that. But the only band I can ever remember, like band, where they didn't go off and do solo careers, where they just broke up and that was it, is the Gin Blossoms. That was, for me, a big mid-'90s, like 1995 and that range band that I absolutely loved. And they put out 2 albums, and then when I was a senior in high school or maybe a freshman in college, they were done. They broke up, and it felt like how could you guys, why? And then 20 some odd years later, they decided to get back together. And a few years ago, I was able to see them at the Wildflower Festival in Richardson. And that was one of those bands that at the time I wish I'd always had a chance to see. And obviously they had broken up when I was young and I never got a chance to see them. And finally I got to see them and, they still held up. It wasn't the same, of course. I mean, these guys are 20 something years older, but that was one that was cool. Trying to think, when Blink-182 broke up, that one was like, oh my God, really? I can't believe Blink-182 is breaking up because I loved their music and they put out several albums that I was a big fan of. And then Tom DeLonge decided he no longer wanted to keep up with what they were trying to do. So he went and formed another band called Angels and Airwaves and was putting out fantastic stuff. But, Blink is just not the same as they were when Tom was a member of the band. And I don't know. I guess it's somewhat nostalgic when you think about bands like that and you think about what they used to put out. And then, sometimes the band will try and replace a singer or somebody in the band. And you're kind of like, well, it's not really that band anymore.
Well, no, it's not. I mean, the energy is different. Johnny Gill replaced Bobby Brown in New Edition. And I mean, he was kind of a star in his own right when he joined them. But the vibe is different, though. The chemistry is different because somebody else has come in, so it can't possibly be the same. Sometimes it can be better. Most time, I think it's just different. But I think it's hard for groups and bands to stay together for an extended period of time.
Yeah,
man. Because I mean, let's be real. Everybody's got an ego, and at some point, typically, somebody decides they want more shine.
Right.
Or how come I only get to sing solo, 3 out of every 10 songs? I ought to be singing solo, half the time. Or, how come I didn't get to do my guitar solo? Or how, but it's all about some shine. Or somebody says, you know what, I want to sing this kind of music. Every time I bring it up, you guys bitch and moan about why we got to do it. Well, you know what, I'm just going to do my own thing. Then I don't have to worry about anybody bitching and moaning about it. I can just do it. Or it gets to the point where you just go, I wonder how big I could be if it was just me.
Right.
You just want to see what you can do. How far can I go? How high can I go? And I don't want to worry about anybody else. I just want to do me.
Yeah, and that's to me like what's so fascinating about the Rolling Stones and how long they've been around and continue to try and do stuff. And some of those bands that have been out there, like Aerosmith, that the main components of that, both those bands that have been around for years and years and years. And even Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band, I've always thought that was interesting. And the E Street is not always the same, but he's got like the basic same crew that goes around with him. And I've always thought that kind of thing was interesting, where, like Matchbox 20 is an interesting example of this because they had some really successful albums and Rod Thomas wanted to do his own thing. And then he kind of left, but they were still together. And they kind of had the understanding that some of us are going to do some solo stuff, but we'll also at some point do some more stuff as a group, which is really interesting musically how that works. In the way that goes, where because you hear about like Guns N' Roses had a big time problem and Motley Crue and even the Beatles, it's like they got to a point where they could, okay, this is our last album, then we're all going to go off and do our own thing, which it's to your point, it's got to be one of those things where the finite life of a band and how you survive over the years with the egos involved and the drummer being like, look, man, without me you can't make this music just because you sing. Higher weighted than I am. Right. I don't know. I find that really interesting when you're on the road like that, especially, and you're around each other constantly and like nonstop. Who knows, 250 nights a year or more.
Dude, people get on people's nerves, man. People's wives and boyfriends and spouses get on your nerves. And so let alone, a group of people that you're working with, even though y'all are friends and and quasi family, you still get on people's nerves, man, because people just people are people. I woke up funky this morning, and so I got a bad attitude. Doesn't have to be anybody's fault, and so sometimes you just need some space. And it's like marriages go stale, man. Bands and relationships go stale.
Yeah,
I'm just tired, dog.
It's one of those, like Fleetwood Mac is an example of that, and they've gone through a variety of things. But when Christy McVie finally, years ago, decided she didn't want to be a part of the band anymore, I never got to see Fleetwood Mac with Christy McVie, and I've seen them, I think it's 3 times. And then Christy comes back, and Lindsey Buckingham leaves. And now, like, Lindsey Buckingham, like, okay, I mean, you're the guitarist, man. Like, you're Lindsey Buckingham. Like, how are you going to be Fleetwood Mac without him? And, of course, they replace him and stuff. And, that's not as dragged as, like, the ones that get me is, like, Leonard Skinner, where there's, like, 1 or 2 original surviving members. And they're like, come see Leonard Skinner. I'm like, but didn't you guys die in a plane crash? I think even Journey is weird to me. And, because Journey, their lead singer is that dude they got from the Philippines or whatever that they saw on YouTube. And he's now the lead singer of Journey. And he sounds fine and it's good. But I mean.
Really?
Yeah. You didn't know that?
What? No.
Yeah. Yeah. This was like years ago. Yeah. Did you ever see, actually, it's a really interesting story of this guy. And there's a movie called Rockstar, and it doesn't have anything to do with this, but it stars Mark Wahlberg, where it's kind of like Judas Priest did this, where they found a dude that was in a cover band and they pulled him out of the cover band, and he was so good that when their lead singer left or died or whatever, they made him their singer. And Journey is kind of the same way, because I'm trying to remember the name of this dude. His name is Arnel Pineda, I believe. And they found this dude in the Philippines, and he was in like a Journey cover band or whatever.
Oh, okay.
And they found him and saw him performing cover songs and gave him a couple of auditions. And they're like, okay, well, you're our new lead singer.
Wow.
I mean, think about being that guy.
Dude, that's crazy.
Right? Like originally when they tried to contact him, he thought it was a hoax, like somebody's putting him on.
I would imagine so. Who would think this would be real?
Yeah, and it's like, hey, man, we'd like to pull you out of the Philippines and make you a multi-millionaire superstar lead singer of one of the great rock bands of all time. Is that cool?
Yeah, who knew being a cover band star would lead to that?
Yeah, I mean, how wild is that, man? It's crazy. So there you have it, a neat little music conversation prompted by a band that probably many of you have heard their work a lot and didn't even realize that you probably knew who it was, in Daft Punk. That, I don't know. I always thought that'd be really cool if you were super famous and nobody really knew who you were because you just wore a helmet everywhere you went. Like you can't even see their faces, I don't know.
It's wild, man.
It is wild. Thanks for being here, man. Thanks for doing this. Jacques over in Jackson, enjoying his time. I love how earlier you were saying, yeah, I had to doing a story on Deion. Then you paused. Deion Sanders.
Well, I try not to act like everybody knows everything.
Well, I was thinking, like, honly,
what other Deion would there be?
Yeah. I was like, maybe if you're really young, you think of a different Deion. But, I mean, Warwick? I don't know. Like, whenever I hear the name, I'm serious. Like, whenever I hear the name Deion, I immediately think Deion Sanders. I couldn't even name another one other than Warwick and Deion Sanders.
Well, if I had said prime or prime time, I wouldn't have said anything. Deion, I don't know, man. I just try to keep everybody involved. I try, you know what it is, man? This is what it is. Every time I leave the house, I tell the kids, hey, remember, don't open the door, for anybody. I don't care who's knocking, whatever. Just leave the door shut. Don't even go to it. And they go, Dad, you've been telling us that since we was 8 years old. I go, I know, but I tell you so that I don't have to say, hey, I can't believe I didn't tell them, and they open up the door.
Yeah.
So even though you should know it and you do know it, I tell you more for me. So, that's for the 1% of the people listening who for some reason don't know who Deion is.
Right? Yeah. I mean, and then I wonder, is it because I'm a football fan? Is it because I'm a Cowboy fan? Like if you were to say the name Emmett, I literally cannot name you probably another Emmett other than Smith.
Right.
That's just the way that it is. Like Troy, I know a guy named Troy. I know a couple of guys named Troy. Now I probably would immediately think Aikman, but a couple of other names pop immediately into my mind, but that's just how it is.
But if I was hooking up with Romo, I'd say Romo, not Tony.
Yeah, because Tony, we'd be like, well, who? But Romo, yeah. I mean, I named, when I had a dog one time years ago, my dog's name was Romo.
Like while we were doing the podcast, I got 3 calls in a matter of like 30 seconds. But unlike you, I put my phone on the mute every time before.
Well, here's what happens is because of the board, I have it potted up so that we can make phone calls like Archer and stuff. And then I forget that I've already potted it up. So my phone comes through because it's connected to the board. So I apologize. I'm sorry I've let you down.
It's all good. Oh, that's what Matt says when he's being passive aggressive and he thinks you're full of shit. He goes, I'm sorry I let you down.
I know. So now if you're on Twitter and I give you that response, you know that I'm not being funny. I just think you're a dick.
And so one of these calls I got was from Tony's son.
Oh, okay. Tony Romo's son?
Tony Dorsett's son.
Oh, look at you, Dorsett. God, you've got
I just said Tony, and see, no, you didn't know who I went.
Yeah, so I wouldn't have thought Dorsett.
That's why I said Deion Sanders, because that's just the way I am.
Yeah, I like that, man. All right. Well, that was fun. Enjoy your time in Jackson. And thank you to everybody for checking us out here on the podcast. Don't forget to find us on Twitter at McMattRadio, at JJT_journalist, and our Instagram at JamSessionCast. Thanks to Purple Elephant Music for the music you hear at the end and beginning of each episode. He is the radio and TV star, the sexy Jean-Jacques Taylor, and I'm just a guy, Matt McLaren. Please remember to tell your friends, subscribe, rate, and review the Jam Session podcast, and we'll catch you next time. Available everywhere you listen to podcasts.